So the other week I started on transforming this very gamery, fully decked out keyboard into something a bit more simple. So if you haven't watched part 1 then check it out. But in short, this was provided by M-Wave, an Australian online retailer, as an extra demo unit to be put into better use. And in the time between I had tons of issues with mainly concerning my machine, so apologies for that and to M-Wave. And this part is basically a failure, so there's no resolution at the end of this part. I wrecked the case, so I'm going to be starting the case again in the next video, but I did too much work on it not to make a video, so I hope that's okay, and if you don't feel like watching it then that's all good as well. So this is a top plate. I'm only going to be pretty much going around the sides instead of a complete faceplate. This will allow me to cover up the edges and to cover up some scratches that were already on the aluminium, and it will also cover the indent where the logo was. I'm using 2.5mm clear acrylic. It doesn't need to be thick since it's completely supported by the aluminium underneath it and the wood as well. But I'm also using clear because it's all I have that's big enough for this massive keyboard. I've gathered a lot of cut-off pieces from various places over time and they're perfect for the smaller form factors like the 40 and the 60% boards and up to even 10 keyless boards, but this is beyond 100%. I put about 5mm extra on the sides just to make it a bit stronger, but it also does make it a bit bigger, but overall the fit is okay and it allows me not to need to straighten up the top and bottom edge of the aluminium. And there was a mistake for the hole for the membrane keys. It's just slightly too big to the right, and the bottom edge is rough because it lifted during the cutting process. So this acrylic part was pretty much good, but I'll fix up the membrane hole and make sure that the acrylic is completely stuck down, and I'll probably use some opaque acrylic next time to save me from frosting it later. Underneath this we have the wood. I had issues with the then current stock of fastening options I had available, so I changed up the design to make it a bit more simpler and easier, but it also does make it stronger. In the previous video I had a sandwich case design, but I'm just going to close it off with wood. Hardwood is pretty much essential if you don't want to get dents and scratches so easily, and this is just some red oak which is 18mm thick and is big enough for the whole keyboard to fit on. I'm using my 1/4 inch straight bit to route all that wood out, and this is just going to take longer since it has to take out all that chunk of wood rather than just cutting out shapes like with the acrylic. About halfway through I had a little mishap, so I had to do the rest with manual input. It's not as clean, but it's on the inside so it doesn't really matter. I also had to go quite a bit deeper since the connector for these membrane keys protruded quite far down, so now I know that I have to integrate this into my design. Okay, so now that everything fitted okay, I drilled some holes that are in line with the existing 3mm holes in the aluminium. And then I drilled some larger holes in the wood so I could put in these M3 tapped spaces inside, so you can unscrew the thing if need be. And to hold those in I just used some epoxy adhesive, and then I also added 2 more holes to make the acrylic more secure. And I'll also improve on this, and while it was strong enough it should be stronger by also having a thick enough frame to enclose those standoffs. Then I tried to sand it into good shape so that the wood and acrylic matched perfectly, and this was tough since hardwood takes quite a while to hand sand and that's all I have access to, and because of this I turned to the router and there's just not enough room on the edges, so unfortunately I did wreck it, and I guess I could patch it up somehow, but I've been patching up problems from the start and it just isn't a good standard of work as we can see. So I've decided to start the case again, which is truly frustrating, but will result in a much better and cleaner product since I know all the mistakes I did and I know what I need to do to avoid them. Starting again will also allow me to just perfect it from the start and will just allow me to have a much faster and easier project. It still would have been nice on the outside and I would have cleaned it up a bit more on the inside and added reinforcements, but I know that this is the correct move. Thanks again to mwave.com.au for sponsoring this project, and since I had a bunch of things go wrong, it was really cool of them for being patient with me. The next part will be a little while as I gather some better hardware, so stay tuned for that.